Australia's manufacturing capacity is the lowest in the developed world. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee. We're going to have a look at this article from the New Daily, which is discussing, I'll just make sure I get to the right thing, there we go, which is discussing our manufacturing capacity here in Australia being among the lowest in the world. Now, I have discussed my concerns with the declining economic complexity here in Australia, the complexity of the products that we export. It's fallen for some time. And normally I go to the Observatory of Economic Complexity, but today we're going to mix it up. We're going to have a look at the Harvard Atlas, and they've got us pegged at 86th ECI rating with regards to the complexity of what we're manufacturing and exporting. Now, I'm an architect. On jobs, I would often try to specify an Australian-made product because it should be theoretically easier to get replacement parts and easier to maintain if something goes wrong. But it's usually much more expensive. And you'll hear people proudly say, we have to buy Australian-made. We'll be doing this buying Australian all the way. And when they get to the shops or when they build it as the price check, that ideological basis or argument goes out the window because people so often can't afford it and you can't blame them. You know, literally the other day, I was at Bunnings. I needed to get a nylon brush to scrub some of the paint after I put some remover on it. I had two of them, exactly the same. I couldn't tell the difference. One was made here, one was overseas. What do you think the price difference was? So there you go, guys. That's the issue. So let's look at this. Australia's capacity to manufacture goods the lowest in the developed world. So, a new report has found Australia has the lowest level of manufacturing self-sufficiency of any OECD country. I can't say I'm at all surprised with that. Prompting calls for the Morrison government to appoint a minister for Australian sovereign capability. Okay. Now, what I would suggest is, rather than appointing ministers to address all these things, let's create special economic regions where we can get rid of all the bullshit red tape that's slowing down Australian manufacturing. We don't have a big enough population. We won't have the economies of scale, so we need to find other ways to compete. Maybe we need to get a few more cities, increase our population. If we had 100 million people here in Australia, there's a reason why everyone is saying Australia is the test bed of the world. Because we are. We're a small little economy with a lot of European values, and they'll test products here. But then, where do you think everyone wants to go? Why do you think every big Australian brand heads over to the US? Why do you think Lorna Jane, when we were working with them, they were coveting the US. They wanted to get into that sector. Why do you think YouTubers target the US audience, guys? It's huge. Lots of advertising over there. So, that's part of the deal. Part of the reason. It's just the economies of scale that we don't have. But of course, there are going to be more calls for more government, Yep, that's it. The government will solve the problem. Yeah, okay. See, I'd argue for less government, but still, let's see what the take here is from James. The report from Flinders University's Australian Industrial Transformation Institute shows Australia is independently unable to meet its essential needs in times of crisis, following a 3-decade-long collapse in Australian manufacturing. And there'll be people making calls, and we'll see it in the comments, making calls for we need to have tariffs to protect our industries. Now, who pays for those tariffs? Who do you think pays for them? We do. The consumers do. So everyone who's complaining and bitching and hating Jerry Harvey for getting GST put on online purchases to protect jobs here in Australia, it's the same thing, everyone. Just a roundabout way. It's a tax on products that you buy offshore to, prop up businesses here in Australia. That's what a tariff is. We pay it. The consumers pay it. So some people may be happy to pay that. They want to cop that. Other people would rather have an improved quality of life to access to cheaper goods and services. I mean, it's all well and good that people are arguing for these drastic interventions in our economy, particularly when they're too young to remember how expensive things used to be in Australia back in the day. So, it comes after Australia's weakened manufacturing sector was forced to pivot towards making essential supplies, including surgical masks and hand sanitizer during the pandemic, as the country's limited production capabilities were left exposed. The Australian Sovereign Capability Alliance commissioned the research, and its director and spokesman, Martin Hamilton-Smith, a former leader of the South Australian Liberal Party, told the New Daily the findings are a warning of what could happen if Australia was cut off from foreign manufacturing again. Well, think of what happened if Australia was blockaded. I mean, it would be difficult to blockade all of Australia, but it's difficult to transport goods from remote parts of Australia. You just have to blockade a few ports, and it's going to be fun and games, isn't it? We've become dependent on everything that we need to survive in an emergency coming in from overseas. Well, why is that? Why is that? It's because it's cheaper. It's because it is dramatically cheaper here. Now I've got, hang on, you know what? I'm going to get an example from my shop. My bookcase isn't fake. Let's jump here. See what we have here. Now these are, get the camera right. There we go. These are door handles, everyone. These are door handles that we use for our shop front when we had a little tenancy, guys. And the reason why I've kept these, because, well, we paid for them. They were quite expensive to manufacture here in Australia. These are a custom job. You know, we have the nice finish. They're good. I'm going to put them on my house one day because they cost a fortune. I don't even remember. It was definitely over $1,000 for some handles to get made with a nice coating on it. Yeah. Locally made. We go out of our way, or we did go out of our way to buy all of these, locally manufactured goods and products. And, it can sound good. You can, be proud of it, but it's a cost, everyone. That's the idea. And then some people can't afford it. Some Australians can't afford it. We're struggling to buy bloody houses. And there's calls for more government intervention. Can you really expect someone who needs to work for over a decade of savings just to get a deposit to get into a house, willing to buy Australian made and pay a premium for stuff when they can get it cheaper overseas? When the previous generations that are now bitching and moaning about it probably had it a bit better. So that means we could be cut off. We saw this happen during the pandemic when we had trouble getting masks, sanitizers, respirators, and pharmaceuticals because of our national government, because other national governments said, we're not letting you have those things that are manufactured in our countries. Well, then why aren't those businesses viable in Australia? What was it? The mask manufacturer here in Australia, ramped up, put on capacity, boom, government cancelled the contracts because it was too expensive. Why is that, everyone? There are things that we need to be able to do as a nation and make here in Australia in order to survive a crisis. Well, not really. Not really. That's a mistake, honestly. You just need to have enough stockpiles in order to ensure you can survive a crisis. What's clear is that at the moment, there are important gaps, and that leaves all Australians exposed and very, very vulnerable. And I think this is a bit of fear baiting here for political purposes, but that's how it's done, guys. That's how it's done. According to the report, Australia has largely regressed to become an importer of goods in the areas of health, energy, infrastructure, defence, and space, science, communications, technology, and advanced manufacturing. Yeah, that's not surprising at all. You know what? We'll bring up the OECD right here, and we'll just look at the full screen version of it here, and you can see what we're all exporting. But look at what we're importing, guys. What's the number one thing we're importing? At least this was petroleum, then cars. But all computer parts. I mean, I've got all these screens, cameras, everything in front of me. It's all imported. A lot of it coming from China. Yeah, that's just the way it all is, guys. So let's jump back here. It has a self-sufficiency ratio of 71.5 compared to 83.2 in the UK, 89% in the US, 120.8% in Germany, and 203.2% in Ireland. Why are we comparing ourselves to other countries? The research also reveals Australia is too reliant on non-value-added raw material and food exports and is the lowest producer of manufactured goods it consumes in the OECD. It supports separate research from the Harvard University that ranked Australia 93rd in the world for economic complexity. Oh, there we go. They have to update their atlas. 93rd. See, we're slipping down. Even OECD were slipped down. In just the time I've had my channel, in the research they've done, we've slipped, guys. And I've been doing YouTube for 2 years, maybe 3. The research says that the Australian government is yet to commit to the development of a comprehensive national strategy based on robust assessments of our strengths and vulnerabilities. See, this is the thing. I would advocate for the government not doing that. I would advocate for the government getting out of the way of these businesses, looking at these businesses, not just throwing money at them or government subsidizing them, looking at what is stopping businesses like this spring up naturally in our economy. That is more important in the long term, because we all know what it is. It's our cost base is so high. You think we're going to have all this manufacturing when our wages are significantly high, conditions are significantly onerous, paternal responsibilities of employers are much higher than other parts in the world, our power is extremely expensive, land is expensive, jumping through any hoops with the council is a pain in the ass, and then you've got protesters out the front trying to shut you down. Because, you didn't virtue signal enough with the latest Twitter mob. Yeah, let's start up a business. Stuff that, just buy houses. Mr. Hamilton Smith said the logical thing to do, given how many government departments would be required to create a national strategy, was to appoint a dedicated minister in the National Cabinet to look after Australian sovereignty capability. Currently, the coalition government has put forward $1.5 billion modern manufacturing strategy, while Labor has proposed a $15 billion national reconstruction fund to address Australia's manufacturing woes. So they're just throwing tax dollars at it. I haven't looked at any of their proposals, but I would be shocked if they're going to suggest special economic regions. Mr. Hamilton Smith said that although the strategies were good work, there was no current national plan of action. Of course not. They just want to win votes. It's not how politicians think. It's piecemeal, and there doesn't seem to be a coordinated national approach. That's what we're seeking, he said. While some economists say the industry is too small to warrant such a significant focus, Mr. Hamilton Smith said it was a problem that needs to be addressed by the government. The answers won't always be to manufacture in Australia. We either need to be able to manufacture it here or we need to be able to store it here. The important thing is we need control over those essential things we need to survive a crisis. Last year, many companies switched their attention to manufacturing essential supplies as the government scrambled to secure enough personal protective equipment for the nation's health workers. South Australian company Detmold Group, which normally makes packages for KFC and McDonald's, manufactured surgical masks, while West Australian brewing company Spinifex Brewing Co. and Limestone Coast Brewing shifted to producing World Health Organization grade hand sanitizer. Yeah, the market adapts. That's a good thing. Why are we meant to be upset about that? The business is adapting. The ASCA says it has provided its research to the Prime Minister and Leader of the Opposition, as well as to state premiers, opposition leaders, and selected parliamentarians. It said it will seek further industry funding to begin sectoral industry supply chain research. So there we have it, everyone. What's the solution and takeaway to... Well, what I would suggest and what I would advocate for is pushing for special economic regions so that these businesses will naturally appear. You want to have incentives to encourage people to start businesses and invest in Australia. Right now, no one's going to do it if it's cheaper to ship it from overseas. Why would you? Look at all the bullshit you have to deal with here in Australia. Even just the cost of land is going up. Why build a factory or a warehouse when, flip houses? Why deal with staffing problems? Flip houses. I mean, here's the thing. We need to get off our housing property addiction if we're going and get rid of our tall poppy bloody syndrome in this country so we can get some industrialists to build up manufacturing in Australia. And the government needs to get out of the bloody way. But can you see that happening? Nah, it's just going to be a whole bunch of other NBN-style, overly bureaucratic crap. Welcome to Australia, guys. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one. Thank you all for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. If you're a fan of the channel and enjoy the content I create here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can sign up for SelfWealth or Stake. You can use our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays or use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint. One interesting thing about Stake, they're having a trial, like a beta with ASX share trading. $0 share trades if you get in the beta, guys. but they're just sponsored with your own holder identifier number. So it's not like they're holding it on your behalf and it's all pretend. You can take those shares and move them around to other brokers you want. That's what I'm interested in. I'll put a special link for that down below if you see it. If you subscribe to that, I get a chance of getting in the beta. And then afterwards, apparently they're $3 trades. So we'll have to see how this goes. Good to see some competition coming to our stock market sector here. Take care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.